Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. We are here again today with another amazing guest, Blanca Rodriguez. She is the owner or CEO of Wound Healer LLC, offering human and canine massage therapy, senior fitness instruction, holistic life coaching, and also speaking and podcasting services, as well as co-authoring an Amazon bestseller and mentoring through multiple Toastmasters clubs. A dedicated volunteer for causes supporting sexual violence survivors and senior animals, she brings her bilingual skills and 18 years of healing expertise to foster well-being and growth. Blanca, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. What a joy it is for me to be here. And it's Valentine's Day out of all days. So this is really cool.
That's today?
Yes, it's today. Not that I celebrate it so much because I don't need Valentine's to celebrate it, but hey, it's all good.
Yeah, I always thought of it as, Happy Singles Awareness Day or Happy Say Goodbye to Your Wallet Day.
So true. Oh my God. Happy be waiting for hours to go to a restaurant when you don't really need to. So yeah, absolutely.
Or happy pay, what is it, $200 for a dozen roses, where the day after and the day before, they're like, 50?
That's right. That is absolutely right. Yep.
Anyway, we were talking about the show about distractions before, and I think that was one of them right there. Anyway, we're going to dive into it right now. But before we do like to have an icebreaker on the show. And that is, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most and why?
Since I was a little girl, I have loved Tweety Bird. And why is that? Because Tweety looks so sweet and so defenseless when in reality, Tweety has always been a badass. And so it's the message of looks can be deceiving and don't judge the book by its cover. So that's why Tweety resonates with me so much. And I relate to Tweety so much. It's like, okay, don't confuse Tweety's kindness with weakness because Tweety has never been weak. So yeah, absolutely.
I like that one. Yeah, I definitely like that. Going back to Tweety. Love that one, actually. So Blanca, what is your definition of procrastination and what does it mean to you personally?
My definition of procrastination is wanting to do too much and not doing anything at all. Wanting to be a perfectionist and not doing and not proceeding with what you want to do because it's not perfect enough. And how and why do I say that? Because I've been through these situations before. I've been improving tremendously, which I'm very grateful for that. And I'm like, okay, keep on patting yourself on the back, lady, because it's good. Of being too much of wanting, let's say, a speech to be so perfect and so perfect and so perfect that I end up most of the time messing it up. Because in the world of speaking, there is three kinds of speeches. The one that you prepare, the one that you practice, and the one that you deliver. And a speech not necessarily has to be perfection, like it's a movie script that you have to say everything. And I mean, just like the script tells you to. A speech can be definitely, there's going to be some variations to it, just like everything in life. And just because you want for things to be so perfect, that is when procrastination happens because there's no such thing as perfection in this world, especially in this human existence. We are not perfect. We may have perfect intentions in our understanding because everybody is different. And definitely that was one of my downhills right there, trying to be way too perfect when it came to wanting to achieve something and wanting to avoid error, wanting to avoid mistakes because I want things to be so and so good. But the truth of the matter is that when we make mistakes, that's the way to grow and that's the way to learn. And that's the way to keep on learning the lessons. And that is how we progress in life. That's how we achieve even better things in life. And another way of procrastination that I did a lot was leaving things for later and later and later because the list of things to do was growing and growing and growing. And I would get so overwhelmed with the list that I would just put it to the side. It's like, I'll do that later. And that is definitely I speak to the choir when it said, it really worked for me that out of that huge list, I will pick 3 or 5 things out of that list and start little by little. And then I would achieve definitely less procrastination. That is for sure. I'm working on it. Still a work in progress. That is for sure. But I'm very happy to say that That would be my biggest two downhill falls when it came to procrastination, and where I used to be to where I am now. I'm very grateful to say that I am almost an ex-procrastinator. That's for sure.
Love that. So thank you for sharing that. I love how you said that, you have three different speeches, and it reminded me, I don't have the information in front of me. You mentioned movie scripts. There was one particular actor who, I don't know, maybe it was Adam Sandler. I'd have to look it up, where he just had parts of the script, or this actor had parts of the script where it would be ad lib, and like everyone else had their lines, but you never knew what this actor was going to say. I
That's
mean, it would
wonderful.
always fit in the story, but you never knew what he was going to say.
Yeah, and there's another actor that, of course, he was going with the script, but when he started to do improv, they just let him go with the flow. Was Robin Williams? He was another actor that he would go. I mean, when he started with the improv, there's like, okay, let's keep the cameras rolling, and it was pretty masterful what he did. It was phenomenal, actually.
So I have a question for you, and it might seem a little off the wall, or maybe, nonsensical, but when you're writing a speech, since you help people, coach people to give speeches, is there room to have that? Would it maybe be better to have those spaces where you have the talking points where you want to talk, but just to ad lib it, so to speak?
Yes, I agree with you totally. This is the thing. Everybody has their own way to write their speeches. Me, as a writer, I write my speech, and I always write it first and foremost. This is what works for me. I write it in handwriting. Okay, I do handwriting, and then from there, I transition into going into computer and typing it. And from there, I start practicing it. And from there, I fix things up, or I add or I take off things about the speech. I practice it. And when I feel, and of course, I have a mentor that I go to him and I do the speech. I deliver the speech to my mentor, and my mentor give me pointers. But most likely he evaluates my speech before I even present it. And he gives me pointers of what may work, of what may not work. And then I choose to add or take off. A lot of people do impromptu speaking. A lot of people just write 3 words. It's incredible. I wish I was in that state where people write 3 words and they do a full speech out of the 3 words. It's incredible. That is masterful right there. But there's so much variety of different, on how people write their speeches and how they're going to deliver them. I remember I was watching a documentary about this comic, Chris Rock, actually. And what he will do for his shows, he use paper notes, and then after the notes, he will transfer them to index cards in different colors, and he will put them all over one table, and one by one, depending on the color of the index card, he will know exactly where to go during his show. It's remarkable how he used his visually remember the color of the index card, and when he was thinking about the color of the index card, he will remember every single thing that he was going to talk about in his show. That is masterful right there. It's to be admired, definitely. But there's so much variety of people and how they deliver their speeches, how they prepare them, actually. The possibilities are endless. And it's an individual thing, and it's definitely to be respected, because it's about what works for you, not what works it's not a one size fits all. Yeah.
It's interesting that you have that, and I know sometimes, I don't know, I just think that, and again, everybody's different, but to me, when I over practice something, like even if I have, and it's one of the reasons I don't do questions on my podcast, and even if someone else, if I'm guesting on a podcast and they send me questions, I don't read them,
Yeah.
because I find that when I read,
Yeah.
and I practice them, I'm sitting there on the podcast the day of, and I'm like, oh yeah, here comes the question, and then I just say, oh, yeah, this is how that goes, because I've over prepared it to the point where
Yeah.
I'm no longer excited.
Yeah. I cannot agree with you more. I've been a guest of like, and it's thankfully it's not too many podcasts that they send you a questionnaire that you should be answering for things of that matter. And I relate to you totally. When I say it's like, you send me many questions and I really don't even read them. I'm much more of an open conversation, and I'd rather go with the flow of you ask me the question and I didn't even read it, and I will give you, and I will give you an answer straight from the heart and of course from the mind, but I'm not going to be rehearsing answers. I don't do that. I practice speeches. I don't rehearse speeches. It's a very different ball game from rehearsing an answer and rehearsing, because then it's an act. And I believe that the more authentic we are with our words, the more powerful the message will be, and people will definitely embrace it because of authenticity and because of being real, not being like, I don't know, like a freaking zombie answering just because you asked me this specifically. So yeah, that's just my train of thought.
And what's your stance on speech writers then? People who write speeches. I mean, is it? I mean, obviously everyone should probably put their own spin on it, but do you think it's better if they write the speech kind of together, or is it all right to have someone write the entire thing for you to spit it out, like many politicians and things?
Yeah, so true, so true. When I know that many politicians have their speech writers, but in my personal humble opinion, I think it should be like a collective job right there, collective work, because you're gonna bring to the table your authentic. Okay, we go with authenticity. You gotta bring to the table your personality, your authenticity, what you really believe in. And even if it's a speech of politic matters, I truly believe that your personality and who you truly are has to come out at some point. Because honestly, I don't really watch politics or anything, but the little that I have watched, it was pretty boring. I remember, and I, not to be, not to be going into any politic preference here, because I don't talk about politics, because like my father used to say, politics and religion, you just don't talk about it, and I'm better off that way. But when it comes to a speaker being powerful, in my opinion, President Obama was a powerful speaker. He still is a powerful speaker, in my opinion. And there's so many powerful speakers that have been great politicians or not so great politicians for all that matter. But I think that when your authenticity is put on the plate, the message will be received better. That's just an opinion. And the more collective work the speechwriter and the speaker have, the better off and the more powerful the message will be.
You know, I love that you brought up authenticity. Just in general, do you find that the biggest, or not the biggest, but one of the biggest contributing factors to people maybe even procrastinating or having a fear of speaking is that authentic level? Because to be authentic means to be vulnerable, means to be judged. Ooh, scary word,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Well, that's kind of unavoidable. They're always before before social media, the haters has always been there. Come on. It's just that the social media wasn't there for them to put it in full manifestation, but the haters will always be there. The people that will criticize always will be there. The people that will not like you, they will always be there, because let's be for real here. Not everybody in this world is going to like who you are or what you do. Exactly. Exactly. So gotta have that really in mind and consider it, that haters will always be haters. You will always have critics. You will always have people trying to undermine you, put you down. The Debbie Downers, the Johnny Rainclouds will always be there. And in my honest professional opinion, vulnerability is power. It shows who you truly are. It shows that you're not trying to be perfect. It shows that you're not pretending to be something that you are not. So this is why these podcasts are so important, because we don't have no damn script for nothing. This is a conversation going on between two human beings that we actually have a brain in our heads. So I think that is a beautiful thing to show vulnerability, because to me, vulnerability is power.
That is it's a powerful viewpoint and a powerful statement. What would you say? And this happens all the time. It happens. I mean, it happens to myself too. Maybe you get praise from three people, or maybe you get praise from hundreds of people, but then you get two or three people that say, "Oh, you suck." but our tendency is to really focus and dig into those three that suck. Why do you think that is?
You know what? I think it's like part of human nature. And I've been reading, different people throughout history, like in present day, celebrities, major actors, people like in really high places, they still get affected by what people that say that you sucked really say. And I think that's part of human nature. I think it's to the minimum of it's like a minority group that really don't give a damn if the hater came, because they come and go. This is unavoidable. They come and go. They'll always be there. And it's like a kind of more and more of a minority group of people that truly don't give a damn of what anybody else say, or don't give a damn of if somebody says, hey, you sucked, because there's always going to be somebody that will say suck. And to me, when I used to be a very insecure person, low self-esteem, low self-worth. I really was down that rabbit hole for a very long season of my life, many, many years. And I was one of these people that I worried about what everybody will say. I was a yes person when I should have say no, because I wanted that rapport. I wanted that attention, when it really, at the end of the day, it was never conducive to anything good in my life. And when I found the blessing of starting to say no, because no is a beautiful sentence, no is a full sentence, it really was liberating in my life. When I started to not care about what everybody thought, it was healing. It was like this huge weight off my shoulders of worrying too much about everybody will say. I'm a retired professional dancer, and the world of dancing is everybody's hypercritical of their bodies, of how they look. The body dysmorphia is rampant. There is so many bulimics and anorexics in the band dancing world, because everybody is fat, even when they're not fat. Everybody is in the category, oh, I'm big, I'm fat, I want to be like her, I want to be like him, I want to look like her. And I was that person. The moment that I really started to get out of my shell and I said, I am done with this vicious circle that is not taking me anywhere. It's been a big blessing to this day, and it's never late to find those changes in life. You just got to work for it. And let me tell you something, not giving a damn about what anybody thinks is a beautiful thing.
You said some interesting things there, not only in the dance, but I think you said a couple of things that are really important there. So the no, being able to say no, which I consider, and you said something really interesting to me, because it was something else that came up. No. So as in, I'm not only for you, or I'm not only for this, or I'm not only this. And it just seemed really interesting. And then you said about comparisons. So comparisons, hello social media. I mean, that's just we're just, it's all about comparison. But how do you go through, like, tell us, because it's very empowering, like you said, not giving a damn. Where do you even start with practicing that?
The moment I started practicing more self-love is when everything started to shift. And definitely understanding that the most important investment that I do in my life is on myself. That is when everything started to shift in my life. Everything started to change. And definitely when we change our mindsets, we really do change our lives. I can tell you this, Chris. 5 years ago, I was really a different person from the woman that I am 5 years later. And in a matter of a year, we can change. And this is the thing. We're beings of habit. And a lot of habits are instilled in us from a very early age. I come from a world of childhood trauma. There was a lot of violence involved. There was a lot of untreated chronic mental illnesses involved. So it was turmoil after turmoil after turmoil. And when such an important figure in our lives, like a parent, in my case, my mother, starts telling you that you're dumb, that you're stupid, that you're slut, that you're crazy, that you're lazy, that really takes a lot of people down the rabbit hole that I went to. But after many years of understanding more and more that my mother was a very troubled woman, that her chronic mental illness took over the best of her. And these are many years later that I understood that. I forgave her, which was very important. And then I just went my own way to do these changes. And the most important part is that I didn't do it alone. I went to counseling. I went to psychiatrists. I went to group therapy. I went to YouTube because YouTube University is powerful. I went to Anthony Robbins' teaching. So it's a big investment, but it's a big investment on teaching ourselves how to love ourselves a little bit more, because so many of us, we grow up loving everybody. But how about you? How about self-love? That is never taught anywhere. I have never heard. And hopefully this is a growing trend of teaching your kid that the most important love that you can have for someone is for yourself, because everything else will definitely blossom. Everything else will be much better. And I understood this concept at a very late age in my face. I'm about to turn 60 this year. So it's never late for these changes. We learn along the way the lessons. And the most important thing is that when you are really willing to change, embrace the change, kick your own ass, going through the process of this change, because we are beings of, we get comfortable in a place and changing. We fight change. Okay. There's a lot. I think all of us in some way or form, we do really fight change. But the more we embrace and go through those changes, the better off we will be. And for me, learning about self-love, it took a lot of hard work, dedication, and a lot of investing on my progress. That is a fact. Never do it alone, please.
Thank you for so much for sharing. You said a lot of really, I think, really important things in there. And a thought came to me, and I wonder on your own journey with the haters that we all go through at one point or another, I'm sure, how integral was compassion and forgiveness in order to kind of not give a damn? Just curious.
It's very important to understand that when haters come and make comments, the problem is not you. The problem is in them. And just not long ago, just the other day, I received a phone call from a very angry woman, but her anger had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with her. And all I did with the phone was this, and said, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. If you let me speak. No, I don't want to let you speak. It's like, okay, ma'am, in order for us to have a conversation, we have to have a conversation between two people. When you're ready to have a conversation, you can call back and I will hang up the phone. And in that moment, this woman was a total stranger ranting over something that I had no control over it. And I really took a deep breath and said, her anger and her rant has nothing to do with me. Same thing with haters in social media, especially social media, that there's so many haters. The hating has nothing to do with you. I promise you that. It has everything to do with them and whatever dark space they are at. What I talk with you here, I go to social media and I do lives. I do many lives on social media about things that I believe that can be helpful to someone else. Okay. I don't go there to bluff and talking bullshit about nothing. I talk about things that can be helpful to others because it has been helpful to me. I've been a massage therapist for almost 20 years of my life. So I talk about body systems. I talk about emotions. I talk about all of these things. And I have found that the haters come in. It's like, oh, who the hell are you to be talking? Like, I got nothing to say because there's nothing to answer. And this is the thing. It takes two to tango. Okay. Tango doesn't go without two people. You cannot do it alone. So when it comes to haters and people giving horrible messages, you got to make a choice to protect your inner peace, to protect your mindset. Because if you start going back and forth to someone who is not willing to listen and they are centered and they made the decision to not be happy unless they're miserable, there's nothing you can do about it. Definitely. So yeah, that's how I go. It's like, you know what? I'm not the problem. You are the problem. And I'd rather be silent, let it go. And this is the beauty of social media. You don't like what someone is saying, is I block them. That's it. It's pretty easy. I mean, I have done it quite a few times, and it feels actually very liberating. So yeah.
As you were speaking, and you're absolutely right. I mean, in today's age, it's not like being on in an office building or being in a grocery store. People that they generally don't say these things to your face, right? They say it in an online world where it's safer.
So true.
Something else occurred to me as well, in that maybe this would be a different way to look at the haters. In that, I always go back to Star Wars. I don't know why. George Lucas was a very smart man. He put a lot
Yeah.
of wisdom
Mm,
into the stories that I never really caught on to until probably a couple of years ago.
I'm a
Like,
fan.
Yoda, right? He said, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to the dark side.
That's right.
And so when you have the haters that are saying, who are you to talk about that? Maybe the best response, aside from no response, but if you feel like you have to respond, maybe ask them, what are you so afraid of?
hmm That's right. That's right. And you know what? Some other times I have said, and this is when I clearly say online, I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe. And I highly recommend, if you have any doubts about something, do your own research. It's very important, because that right there can really stop many people from bluffing and talking. It's like, you don't believe what I say, just do your own research. You're not in agreement with what I say, do your own research, or just click, I'm done with you. And I mean, it's pretty simple. Not necessarily that simple, but it's a great solution that will highly recommend to everybody. It's good for peace of mind.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, but it seems pretty arbitrary who we choose to listen to and who we don't, right? What was the saying? Tell a man that there's 1,000 stars in the sky, and he'll believe you. Or no, tell a man there's a billion stars in the sky, he'll believe you. Tell a man the paint is wet, he'll touch it.
Isn't that something? My goodness, we are complicated beings. My goodness.
I think it goes back to how easy it is to find information, and that sort of segues into, I think we're living in a time right now where it is so hard, and it's getting harder to figure out. Back in the day, we had libraries, right?
hmm
And I used to use this argument with my daughter all the time. You could have finished that school project because you have access to Google, you have access to now ChatGPT, you have access to all this stuff. I had to walk my ass to the library to hopefully find a book that nobody else had like lent out
So
in order to
true.
maybe get it done. But now I'm having to backstep that and say, you better fact check that what you saw online in a few books too. And it's
hmm
just, how do you deal with that when you're looking for information and things? Like, do your own research. Yeah, that's good. We can, but what would the methodology be?
To me, what I recommend is go to the most reliable sources of information. Go to the experts. Don't go to TikTok, because I mean, I'm a massage therapist and I have massaged a lot of youngsters, and they ask me these questions when it comes to bodily functions and movement and all these things. It's like, well, because in TikTok I saw this, and that, and I would be like, oh, okay, well, I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe, and I really don't go to TikTok for anything. But this is what has worked for me. And I've been a group fitness instructor for decades of my life. I'm a massage therapist. So I think I know a thing or two about body mechanics, muscle movements, which muscles to use for that, for what, or this. And definitely the TikTokers, definitely that has been an impressive one, and they truly believe in TikTok, but everything that TikTok says. And I insist, even to my daughter, that she's a college graduate now, but I would say, honey, if you go to Google, go to the most reliable sources of information, and I highly recommend that you go to the library and double check your leisure, because this is something I couldn't obligate her to do. It's like, these are the options that you have to confirm this information, rather than just start talking because you saw something in TikTok. So that's what I do with my own 23-year-old daughter. And if she did it or not, that's another story, because I don't know, but that's what I will always recommend to people. Go to the most reliable sources of information. I mean, I go to many sources of information, and I start with Google, and then if Google take me, let's say for example, I'll go to the Mayo Clinic, and check their website, and I talk about a lot about menopausal stages. So since I am in menopausal stages myself, I go to the most important and reliable sources of information because it's something that not only helps me, but it can help many other people. And the North American Menopausal Society, I have found that that is a powerful source of information, but I go to the most reliable sources of information that I say, okay, let me double, triple check, and I'll go here, here, and there. I don't set for one source. Don't set for less. I don't set for one source. I'd rather go to 2 or 3. To me, the power of 3 is really, really good. And even our brains process things more with the power of 3 than just go to just one source of information and say, okay, I'm done with this. So yeah, the more informed we are about something, the better it is to understand.
As you were talking about that, the most reliable sources of information, I think I've found a flaw in our logic today. And why do so many people go to TikTok? Why do so many people go to Instagram? Why do so many people go to those sources? And it's because there's this fallacy. In the past, we've gone to the Encyclopedia Britannica. We've gone to these publications that have millions of copies, right? But we've somehow translated that into, but this guy's got 1 million likes. He must know what he's talking
Right. Oh my God. Yes. It's all about the numbers. So true.
about. Trying to figure out how to reconcile that now. It was like this little epiphany. It's like, okay, so
Right.
a reliable source. Well, millions of copies. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been used for decades. Well, now you can use that same argument. Get this. How wild is this? The Encyclopedia Britannica, millions of copies. I don't know how many decades now, right? But now think about this. Tide Pod Challenge. Millions and millions of views, millions and millions of distribution. Decades from now, will they consider that a reliable source because it was distributed so?
Exactly. Makes total sense. Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. And this is the thing with encyclopedias. I mean, I remember when I was a little girl, Encyclopedia Britannica was there in Spanish, okay, translated to Spanish. I'm from Puerto Rico. And it was like, you want to know something? You just go over there. And then fast forward 20 years later. And there's quite a few things from that encyclopedia that they were obsolete, that they were not even necessarily true, that the approach to certain things is different. For example, the way, and I'm going straight back to the world of group fitness instruction and exercise. Very, very important. Back in the early 80s, when I started dancing, there was the way to warm up the body was through going back and forth and back and forth. So extending and shrinking the muscle over and over and over, being with that body being cold and the muscles not being warm. Fast forward to the 90s and 2000s, that is not the best way to warm the muscles anymore. You do subtle movements to start warming up the muscle so the muscle can get used to the movement, not slamming the muscle, and to do a stretching when you're not warmed up because it can cause a rupture in the muscle and you can hurt yourself pretty badly. It's, just bringing this point off because I remember the exercise, how it used to be. It was the best of the best back in the 80s, and how it is right now in 2025 is like, I would never do not even a quarter of the warm-up that I used to do as a dance teacher back in 1984. So very interesting.
Well, I mean, we do the best that we can with the information we have at the time, right?
That's
I
right.
mean, and if you want to go to health and sports and things, baseball players, back in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, they all smoked.
Right.
And all doctors smoke Camels,
In hospitals, everybody will smoke in the hospital. Everybody, pregnant woman will be smoking all the time as well. So this is something that is like, right. I mean, and then fast forward years later that it became a total taboo. How dare you? Don't you dare. This will kill you. I mean, and then back in those days, it's like, oh, you will be smoking happily in the hospital. Yeah. In the room where the patient is. Isn't that something?
It's something to me. Like I can forgive the doctors, they didn't know. I can forgive the dance instructors, they didn't know.
Right.
But I don't know, how do you reconcile the fact that you now know, you go back and you say, okay, we were wrong, and yet you're still selling that product? I mean, you put a warning label on it,
That's
but
right.
it's almost like you have a hand grenade. You know hand grenades kill people.
Yes.
And so, you're selling them, but you're putting a label on it saying, yep, this will kill you if you use it. And yet, I don't know which is worse, that they're still selling it or that we're still buying.
To me, I think it goes both ways, the still selling and the still buying. Because even if something is hazardous for you, for example, cigarettes. Okay, that's a great example that, I mean, cigarettes have been around for ages. And I remember when I was a little girl, I mean, the major magazines will be blasted with ads from Marlboro, and a Marlboro man is like, wow, this is the coolest person ever. And if you're a cool person, you smoke Marlboros. And what it is now, that it's like, keep on smoking your Marlboros, but just to let you know, there's a little thingy right here in the corner that it says, warning. This can cause respiratory issues and even cancer. And people still keep on buying it. I remember cigarettes when they were at $2 or $5 for the cigarettes, and now it's $14, $15, even $20 for a pack of cigarettes, and people keep on buying it. So I think the seller and the consumer are equally messed up when it comes to that.
Yeah, but I have to say here that I was on the consumer side, and I have to step back and say, like, I understand how it can happen. Well, actually, I don't understand how it happened, to be honest with you. But so my father, he smoked for a long time. He had a heart attack specifically because he smoked. And this was when I was still fairly young. So what do? I go out and I start smoking probably about 5 years after that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I've quit since then, but I often wonder what led me to do that. And I think it was, and it wasn't necessarily ad campaigns or anything. It was just that social pressure, and it's kind of always in the background.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I cannot agree with you more. I smoked cigarettes for over 20 years, actually. And I remember that my aunties and uncles, they will be smoking and they will be having a conversation. It was always with the cigarette. And I found it fascinating. This was when I was a little girl. It's like, oh my God, they look so cool and so classy. And then, bring on the commercials on TV, the ads on magazines. I've always been a fan of fashion magazines, always, since I was a little girl. And I would see those ads, and I was like, wow, they look so cool. But it's just like you said, saw it for the first time. It was at my own home. My mother never smoked, and neither did my father. But everybody else around me, aunties, they will be smokers. And myself, I smoked for 20 years of my life. And thank God I let go of that a very long time ago. And it was like the most healthiest decisions I ever made in my life. But yeah, it was that pressure, that coolness that me in my mind, I found it cool. I found it sassy. I found it elegant. I found it modern. And I go to this fashion magazine, and there are those models with their beautiful hair and dresses. And this is me and my mindset. If you want to add to that cool of the dress and the hairdo, you have the cigarette in hand as well. So, I mean, it depends on our mindset. But my mindset, definitely with that, you took me straight back to, it's like, I remember how I got interested in smoking cigarettes, and that it was exactly that. Yeah.
Just amazing how our mind plays tricks on us like that, even when we know
That's
it's
right.
not not right.
Exactly.
It's been a great conversation, Blanca. I could probably go on like this for hours. I'm sure you could too. We are coming up pretty close to the time. Was there anything that you think I should have asked but didn't ask, or anything you feel we should have covered but didn't cover today?
Not at all, Chris. This has been a wonderful conversation. And I love our interaction, because these are things that a lot of people don't even realize that these things did happen. Where I come from, I mean, as a little girl, I would be in a place that it was full of people smoking. I would be in places that, I mean, when it comes, fast forward today, no kids should go there, and I did. So, yeah, let's embrace change. Change is good. And when we change our mindset, definitely our lives will change. And this has been a wonderful conversation, Chris. I'm very grateful to be here.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show again, Blanca. Just before we go, what's the best way for our listeners to reach out to you in case they want to have a discussion, or
Of course.
hopefully give you
Yeah.
some positive reinforcement.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can reach me at my website www.woundedhealer.us and in all social media as woundedhealer.blancae. I'm in Instagram, everywhere, even TikTok. Imagine that. We were talking about TikTok and I'm in TikTok.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Blanca. And then to all our listeners, don't worry about grabbing a pen and paper and trying to scribble that down. We will have that in the show notes for you, so that it'll be easy for you to find. Once again, Blanca, thank you so much for being on the show. And to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation and inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time.